All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of AI search engines, specifically Perplexity AI. They've been kind of shaking things up recently with their approach, and they just launched a new feature that's causing quite a stir online.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? This new feature, uh, it really highlights just how global AI development has become and how quickly things are moving in this field.
For sure. So, for those who haven't had a chance to use Perplexity AI yet, it's a search engine based out in San Francisco, and it uses these things called large language models. These models can actually understand the context and the meaning behind your search, unlike those traditional search engines that just look for keywords.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And they even have a pro version where you can upload files, generate images, and you can even pick from different AI models to use for your searches.
And one of those models, DeepSeek R1, is what's causing all the buzz right now.
Yeah.
It's a reasoning model developed by a company in China, and that's definitely raised some eyebrows.
Yeah, the internet's been kind of blowing up with questions and concerns, especially when it comes to data privacy and the potential for censorship. So today we're going to break down exactly what DeepSeek is. We're going to look at why Perplexity decided to go with it, and we're going to explore what this all means in the grand scheme of things. By the end, you'll have a really solid understanding of what's going on and why it even matters.
Sounds good. Let's get into it.
Okay, so first things first, what exactly is a reasoning model? I mean, I get that it's like a type of AI, but how is it different from other types of AI?
Okay, well, imagine you ask like a simple question like, what's the capital of France?
Hmm.
A basic language model might just say Paris because it's
Yeah.
seen that connection so many times. But a reasoning model actually tries to understand the question you're asking. It sifts through information, connects different ideas, and it even makes inferences. It's kind of like having a mini Sherlock Holmes right there in your search engine.
Wow, so it's not just about like finding the info, it's about actually making sense of it.
Exactly. And that's where DeepSeek comes in. It's designed to be really good at that whole reasoning process. And that could really change the way we search for things online. Instead of just getting a page full of links, you might get a nuanced and actually insightful answer that really addresses what you're looking for.
Okay, so that sounds amazing from a user's point of view, but it seems like this is where things start to get a bit complicated. DeepSeek was developed in China, and that's made a lot of people worried about what happens to their data and if those search results could be censored.
Right. And those are valid concerns. The Register actually published an article recently where they talked about how they downloaded and tested DeepSeek. And they found that the model, as downloaded and used in that way, is programmed to avoid certain topics. But it's super important to remember that Perplexity isn't using DeepSeek straight out of the box.
Oh, so what are they doing differently?
Well, the CEO of Perplexity, Aravind Srinivas, has been really upfront about this. They're using a self-hosted version of DeepSeek. So it runs on their servers in the US and Europe.
Hmm.
None of the user data goes to China. And they've even shared screenshots of DeepSeek giving uncensored responses to prove it.
So they've taken steps to deal with those initial worries. But it still makes you wonder, why choose DeepSeek at all if it's going to come with all this extra baggage?
That's a great question. And it gets to the heart of what Perplexity is all about. Remember, they're all about innovation and pushing the boundaries of search. DeepSeek, despite its origins, might offer capabilities they just couldn't ignore.
Okay, so let's get into that a little bit more. It seems like Perplexity is really going all in on this DeepSeek thing, even if it stirs up some controversy. But like, why take that chance?
Well, put yourself in their shoes for a second. They're a company that's all about pushing the limits of search, you know? And DeepSeek, with its reasoning capabilities, well, it could be a total game changer.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to just ask these really complex questions and get back really insightful answers instead of just a list of links.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful idea. It's like going from using a basic calculator to having a supercomputer for all your search needs.
Exactly. And this whole move kind of highlights a bigger trend we're seeing in AI development. It's becoming more and more global. Research and all the cool innovations are happening everywhere now, not just Silicon Valley.
Oh, so are we going to see more companies using AI models from all these different places? Is this like the beginning of something much bigger?
I think it's very likely, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, AI is developing so fast, and companies are always looking for that next big advantage. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of this mixing and matching of different AI technologies.
That's exciting and a little bit scary at the same time. It opens up so many possibilities, but it also makes things a lot more complicated. Like, how are we as just regular users supposed to even begin to understand all of this?
That's where transparency and user choice really come into play. Companies need to be upfront about where their AI models are coming from and how they work. They need to give users all the info they need so they can make good decisions about which tools to use and how to use them.
So it's not just about blindly trusting these companies. It's about being an informed consumer of AI technology.
Exactly. And it's also about companies being open to feedback and being willing to change how they do things based on what users are saying.
Which, to be fair to Perplexity, it seems like they've done that here. They listened to the concerns and they gave more info about how they're using DeepSeek.
Yeah, they did. And I think that's a really good example for other companies to follow. That kind of open communication is really important, especially as AI becomes more and more a part of our lives.
Okay, so transparency is key, but let's be real here. Most people aren't AI experts. So how can we expect the average person to really grasp all the little details of these models and what they might mean?
That's a good point. And it shows just how much we need more education and resources about AI. We need to make all this information easier to understand and accessible for everyone, not just the techie people.
So it's not just about the companies being transparent, it's about making sure everyone is more AI literate.
Absolutely. It's about making sure everyone has the knowledge and the skills to navigate this crazy world of AI that's changing so fast.
All right, so we've talked a lot about the challenges here, but let's switch gears for a second and talk about the good stuff. What are some of the really cool possibilities that could come from this more global, interconnected approach to AI development?
Well, for one thing, it could mean that innovation happens way faster. When you have researchers and developers from all over the world working together and sharing ideas, well, the potential for those big breakthroughs just explodes.
So it's like a global AI brain trust, where everyone is bringing their own unique perspective and expertise to the table.
Exactly. And that kind of cross-cultural collaboration, well, it could lead to AI tools that are more inclusive and really capture the diversity of all human experiences.
That would be incredible. Imagine AI tools that are truly designed for everyone, not just for a specific group of people.
That's a vision worth striving for, but it's going to take a conscious effort from everyone involved, developers, policymakers, researchers, users. We all need to be part of the conversation about how to make sure that AI is developed and used in a way that helps all of humanity.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation. We started with this one specific thing happening at Perplexity AI, but we've really broadened things out to look at the bigger trends and the implications of AI on a global scale.
Yeah, it has been fascinating, and I think we've just scratched the surface.
Before we wrap up, I want to give our listeners something they can actually take away from this. If they're feeling a bit overwhelmed by all this, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
Hmm. If I could give just one piece of advice, it would be this. Don't be afraid to be curious. Start paying attention to all the AI that's already around you. Ask questions about how it works. And don't be afraid to play around with different AI tools. The more you engage with this technology, the more in control you'll feel.
That's great advice. It's about taking charge of our relationship with AI instead of just letting it happen to us.
Exactly. And remember, this is a field that's constantly evolving. There's always something new to learn and explore.
Well, on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about how complex AI development is, the importance of transparency and user choice, and all the potential benefits and challenges of this increasingly global AI landscape.
It's been great unpacking all of this with you.
And to our listener, we hope you found this deep dive informative and thought-provoking. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll be sharing some specific resources and tips to help you become more AI literate and navigate this exciting world with confidence. All right, so let's talk about what our listeners can actually do. We've talked about AI in this big picture way, but how can people become more AI savvy in their everyday lives?
Remember how we talked about being curious?
Mhm.
That's really the best place to start. Just start noticing how much AI is already a part of your life. Think about things like personalized recommendations or your navigation app that seems to know your route to work better than you do.
Oh, yeah. It is kind of freaky how those things can be so accurate.
Exactly. But instead of just accepting it, stop
Hmm.
for a second and ask yourself, how does this even work?
Yeah.
What kind of data are they using? That simple act of just asking the question is how you start to build that AI awareness.
It's like becoming a detective, but for the digital world.
Yeah, I like that. And once you start asking those questions, there are some awesome resources out there that can help you find the answers. Like organizations like the AI Now Institute and the Partnership on AI, they're doing some great work to try and make AI ethics and development more transparent. They have reports, articles, even online courses that you can check out.
Okay, so there's stuff to read, but what about actually doing something? Like for people who want to get their hands dirty with AI?
Oh, for sure. One of the best ways to learn is by doing. And you don't need to be a programmer or anything to experiment with these AI tools. There are so many user-friendly options available now. Image generators, text summarizers, even AI-powered music composers. Just try a few of them out, see what they can do, and you'll start to understand their strengths, their weaknesses.
Right. It's like anything else, the more you use it, the more comfortable you'll get with it. But, there's also a lot of talk about bias in AI these days. How can our listeners be more aware of that?
Oh, that's such an important point. AI tools are made by humans. And humans, well, we have biases, whether we're aware of them or not. So don't just assume that what the AI tells you is the absolute truth. Always double check, especially if something seems off or if it reinforces those harmful stereotypes that we already see in the world.
So it's like with anything else, a healthy dose of skepticism is a good thing. Don't just believe everything the algorithm tells you.
Exactly. And be aware that different AI tools can give you totally different results, even if you ask the same question. So don't be afraid to experiment with different options and see how the outputs compare.
Like getting a second opinion from a doctor, but an AI doctor this time. And I guess this all comes back to that idea of being an informed user of AI.
You got it. Just like you would do your research before you buy something, take some time to understand the AI tools you're using. Like, what are their limitations? What kind of impact could they have?
This whole conversation makes me think back to something you said earlier about how this is really a question for all of society, not just a technical one.
Oh, absolutely. As AI becomes more and more a part of our lives, we all need to be involved in the conversation about how it's developed and how it's used.
So it's not just about learning how to use these AI tools, it's about shaping how AI is actually used in the world around us.
Exactly. We can just sit back and be passive consumers.
Uh-huh.
Or we can actively participate in this. Demand transparency, push for ethical development, advocate for AI that benefits everyone.
This has been an amazing conversation. We started with this seemingly simple news item about a new AI model, and we've ended up talking about what it really means to live in an AI-driven world.
It really has been a journey, and I hope it's gotten our listeners thinking more about AI and how it all affects them.
And to you, our listener, we hope you found this deep dive informative and maybe even inspiring. Remember, the future of